Hi, everybody, and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles, and on this episode, we're doing Walking in Memphis. The topic for this Walking in Memphis, CWA Wrestling from April 4th, 1987. If you haven't seen my shows before, I would rate everything on a 1 to 5 scale, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. Also, if you want to pause this and watch the episode we're going to review, it'll be down here in the description. With all that being said, let's jump right in. We start the show off with Paul E. Dangerously, aka Paul Heyman, and his newest, or I guess his newest monster or beast or whatever you want to call him, Lord Humongous. And this is the second iteration of Lord Humongous, which means that this is Sid Edey, aka Sid Justice, Psycho Sid, Sid Vicious, who would go on to be a major star in the upcoming decade. This was a cool interview. I mean, anytime, of course, Paul Heyman, one of the great interviews of all time. Great way to start the show. Leads us right into a match. Lord Humongous versus Ronnie Nations. This was just a squash match, basically, to get Lord Humongous over, who at that point had been over because he'd been on TV for a number of years. A different wrestler playing him before Sid, but he was used in this role. He was just a guy that went out there and squashed people. Humongous picks up the win here, and I've already talked about the match longer than it took. It was a 33-second match. For that, I can't really give this a high score. I mean, it wasn't bad, but there was 33 seconds of a guy squashing. I'm going to give it a 3. It was enjoyable, but I can't really rate the match. If I slap it together with the interview, we'll bump it up to a 4, just because of Paulie's so great on the interview. After that, we get another interview with Paulie Dangerously again, who shoots to Tommy Rich, who's injured and in bed. Then we get promos by Austin Idol, and we go to break, come back, get an interview with Jerry Lawler and Eddie Marlin, who's the quote-unquote authority figure here, who then talk about being fined for attacking Tommy Rich. Bam Bam Bigelow does an interview because he's been suspended because he refuses to pay that fine. All these were great, with the exception of Bam Bam. And I love Bam Bam Bigelow, so don't take this as a diss or a knock on Bam Bam himself. It's just he was very young in the business here and he stumbled a lot. And for a pre-tape, they probably should have made him do it over. But with that being said, Paulie Dangerously, Tommy Rich, Austin Idol, Jerry Lawler, all fantastic promo guys. I'm giving that segment a 5. Next up, we have The Hunter with Bambi versus John Paul. And I don't know if it's John Paul Jones from Led Zeppelin. I almost said the Beatles. It's definitely not him, but it could be Jake Paul's dad, or or Chris Paul's dad. Who knows? John Paul's just an enhancement guy here. The Hunter, kind of interesting. This is another guy. As I watch more of these, it's jogging my memory on guys that I may have just seen in Pro Wrestling Illustrated or only seen a few times. Kind of an interesting character. We started to see with the Lord Humongous with him, where Memphis is starting to mimic what WWF at the time was doing, with their characters being more out there. Memphis itself, CWA, had a history of having outlandish characters like this. This is another basic squash match. The Hunter goes over. I'm giving this match a 3. Pretty interesting. It's a neat time capsule to see these characters like this. Next up, we have an interview with Downtown Bruno with Pat Tanaka, who Downtown Bruno puts a a bounty on the mask of the BT Express, which is Billy Travis under a mask. Obviously, if Billy Travis gets unmasked, he's suspended forever. Another classic storyline in territories where faces would get lose a loser leaves town or a loser must retire type match and come back as a masked character that was very poorly hidden. I mean, both Ron and Rob Fuller did the Tennessee Stud. Bob Armstrong had the Bullet. Here, Billy Travis had the BT Express. Dusty Rhodes had the Midnight Rider. It's a trope. I kind of wish they would do stuff like this. And they teased it about 10 years ago with John Cena doing something like this, where he came in as a luchador as Juan Cena, but it was only on a house show. It'd be cool if they did some of this stuff. I thought this was a cool little interview, which leads us into our next match, which is a very young Jeff Jarrett and the BT Express, aka Billy Travis, as I said, versus Keith Eric and Thunderbird. Keith Eric and Thunderbird are obviously the enhancement guys in this match. Another quote-unquote squash match. This one went a little bit longer. Jarrett and BT Express pick up the win here. I'm giving this match a 3. Another solid match. The promo, Downtown Bruno's awesome. You may know him as Harvey Whippleman, but he's a great manager. I so much miss, and it sticks out like a sore thumb on these. I miss the days of guys like Paulie Dangerously, Downtown Bruno. You had J.J. Dillon, Bobby Heenan, Classy Freddie Blassie. I mean, you had such legendary characters who, even if they had a boring wrestler with them, they were able to make that wrestler more fun. You believed in that guy, or you wanted to boo that guy because their manager was so great. And like the Hunter had Bambi with him, who's a female wrestler, as a valet. I kind of miss valets too. I know it's a little bit different time, but I think we could still use valets in a way that's not exploitive, and I think we could definitely use managers. AEW does it a little bit, but theirs is more like, let's put a legend out there with them that don't really serve a purpose. Just my opinion on that. Sting with Darby. I don't think Sting really helps out Darby that much. If anything, Sting is more going towards Darby style. Tully Blanchard, I don't think added much to FTR. Arn Anderson, I don't think added much to the Cody Rhodes dynamic when he was there. Jake the Snake Roberts definitely doesn't add to Lance Archer because his promos that he cuts for Lance Archer barely even mention Lance Archer. We need to go back to the days where it was the old school guys, old school manager types, in my opinion. And not saying that any of those guys could be bad, we just need to get them to that place. Coming off of that, we have another interview with his Jeff Jarrett, BT Express, and now Soul Train Jones, who you may know better as Virgil or Vincent. He's in full Apollo Creed Rocky III gear here, and I believe he even came out to the music that Apollo Creed used on Rocky III. It's been a while since I've seen Rocky III, so I don't... Or was it... No, Rocky IV, I'm sorry. Rocky IV, not Rocky III. It's been a while, so I don't remember if it was the exact same James Brown song, but definitely was the inspiration for Soul Train Jones here. After that, we get it, and that all ties into that same segment. I'm giving the whole segment as a whole a 3. After that, we come back from break. We get Pat Tanaka versus David Haskins. Downtown Bruno is with Pat Tanaka as he was earlier. Again, another match to put over Pat Tanaka here. I thought this was a solid match. Pat Tanaka's a guy I really like, and he's kind of one of those guys that's been somewhat forgotten by history as the years go on. I really enjoy Pat Tanaka, especially in the Orient Express or Bad Company. I thought he was great in both of those teams. I'm giving it, obviously, Tanaka wins here. I'm giving this match a 4. Next up, we get a local promo for Jerry Lawler, which is followed by an interview for the Hunter, with Downtown Bruno, who has the Hunter, Bambi, Big Bubba, and the Mighty Goliath all out there with him, reiterating his bounty on the BT Express's mask. Also, kind of goes into the storylines with everybody in the match going forward, which leads us into our main event of the evening: Boy Tony, Big Bubba, and Mighty Goliath versus Paul Diamond, JT Southern, and Soul Train Jones. This again, and I know it's a different time frame, so I'm trying to put that into my gradings here. It's kind of jarring to watch this, and not saying that the matches are not interesting and they're not fun. When you know when they get in the ring who the obvious winner is going to be every single time, it kind of takes a little bit off. I wish that this show had more, or at least one name versus name match. I guess you could kind of say that this is because the six-man Boy Tony, Big Bubba, and Mighty Goliath were all kind of used as heavies at the time. But it's obvious that the team going over is going to be Paul Diamond, JT Southern, and Soul Train Jones. Bruno goes to powder one of the faces, hits one of his guys, which leads to them picking up the win. Soul Train, Diamond, and JT Southern pick up the win here. I'm giving this match a 3. I thought it was solid again. Kind of hard looking at squash matches and giving them much more than a 3 or a 4, just because it's so predictable. Even then it was so predictable. But the point wasn't at that time, again, and it's a different era now. We're talking 35 years later. The wrestling business has changed. Wrestling TV shows have changed. So, I'm not trying to take points away, but overall my enjoyment would be better. Let's say if on this card we have Pat Tanaka versus Paul Diamond. I would have got super excited to see that. Or BT Express versus Lord Humongous. Or the Hunter even. Where we had at least one of those matches where it's a name versus name, is what I'm saying. It would have made my enjoyment better. Overall, I thought the show was good. I'm not saying the show was bad, just a minor critique. I wish it was more than just squash matches, especially on this. On other episodes of CWA that I've reviewed, they have had more of evenly fought matches. So, again, I would have liked to see that more here. Overall, I'm giving the show itself a 3. I thought it was good because of the reasons I just mentioned. I can't give it much more than that. But I do definitely recommend watching this. You get to see a young Paul Dangerously. You get to see... And it's funny because Lance Russell keeps calling him Paul Dangerously. And I think he even gets Downtown Bruno to call him Paul Dangerously at one point. You get to see a young Paulie Dangerously, young Bam Bam Bigelow, young Sid Vicious, young Jeff Jarrett, young Virgil, Soul Train Jones, Pat Tanaka, Paul Diamond, guys that are vastly underrated you get to see on here. So again, just a great mix of talent, young talent, older talent. I thought it was a good quality show. Definitely something I recommend. Again, I can't rate it higher for the reasons I mentioned earlier. That being said, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe if you haven't. And if you watched all the way to the end, let's put a bad company for Tanaka and Diamond in the comments, because I love that tag team. With all that being said, my name is George Coles, and this is my review of CWA Wrestling from April 4th, 1987.